Yeah, so hi everyone. Just give yourself the gift of the next 20-25 minutes time out. It's time for an evening meditation. So just going somewhere where you're not going to be disturbed, putting your phone on mute or silent, sitting in a comfortable meditation posture. So whatever that happens to be for you. Maybe that's sitting cross-legged in half lotus position, or if you're sitting on a chair, sit feet shoulder width apart, cup your hands in your lap, keep your back straight, close your eyes. Start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, notice how the stomach rises, chest rises. Breathing into the heart center. Squeeze the sphincter muscle, so that's the muscle used to contract the flow of urine. Squeeze the last drop out. That creates an energy lock and a pumping action up the spine. Just draw it up the spine with the breath into the heart center. Put one hand on your heart center. Just feeling this lovely life energy in your heart, comforting, warm presence. And then just draw it up into your upper head, your crown. Feel this warm thread of energy flowing all the way up the spine. Take a final sip of air in at the top. Just pause and do a little mental and emotional check-in. So just noticing whatever's going on in your mind. So particularly any conflict thoughts. So those show up as thoughts of irritation, frustration, anger, attack, the extreme hatred, fear, jealousy, rage. And just notice how that feels mentally, physically, emotionally. In your body, so maybe there's a knot in your stomach, clenched jaw, tight fists, sweaty palms, dry mouth. Start to pay attention to these subtle cues that you're really in a state of conflict, that your mind is not at peace. Because the only way you're ever going to correct that is if you first notice it, become aware of it. Now, you're just going to exhale and let it all go. With today's lesson, just say there is no conflict. For my will is yours. My will is the will of love. And just blowing all of this negativity out with your breath. Imagine it's like black smoke leaving you, leaving your mouth, leaving your energy system, moving out of every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And just rest here in stillness for a few moments. Really find the peace that passes all understanding, it's called in the Bible. In these gaps between breaths. So paying attention to the gaps between breaths, the gaps between words, between sentences, pauses, because this is what all the words and the breathing is directed to. Take your mind into still, calm, empty, open, peaceful place. So breathing in again. And just raising the energy up, squeeze the sphincter muscle. Imagine you're not just breathing air in, but light into your stomach, filling your stomach up like a light-filled balloon. Second phase of the breath into the heart center. Feel the energy rising up your spine. Clench your sphincter muscle to pump it up the spine. Imagine this beautiful golden or white light, column of light flowing up from the base of the spine into your heart center, and then on up into your upper back, into your head, through the back of your head, into the crown of your head. Pause at the top of the inhale. And at the top of the inhale, say there is no conflict. For my will is yours. My will is the will of love. Again, just notice any thoughts that are not loving, that are not peaceful, and bring them into this loving presence. They must dissolve in the light. Imagine your whole body, every cell, every muscle is infused with light. You're just going to expel this last remaining darkness out with the breath as you exhale, blowing it all out. Dark grey smoke. Pull the lower stomach into the spine sharply, so expel the last remaining air out. And negativity, so you come to rest at the bottom of the exhale, in the stillness, in the peace. So there is no conflict, for my will is love's will. And there is no opposite to love. So now breathing in again. And just nice, deep, slow inhales. Imagine you breathing light in to your stomach, your heart center. Drawing the light up the spine into the crown of your head. Pause, smile, for no other reason than that you're here, you're aware, you're alive. And because of that, peace is yours. It's an underlying peace that you can become aware of. And exhale, just sigh it all out. Make a little sighing sound on the back of your throat by constricting your throat. Keep your mouth closed as though you're fogging sunglasses. But you keep your mouth closed. So it makes that noise, the air flows out of your nostrils. This energy you've raised up into the head subsides back down the front channel of your body. Coming back down into the heart, the stomach. Coming to rest in the lower stomach and groin. Pause at the bottom of the exhale. And repeat the cycle, breathing in. Imagine you're not just breathing air in, but you're breathing this beautiful golden or white light into these energy centers, your stomach, so that's your belly button, third chakra, your heart center, fourth chakra or energy center, third eye and your crown, those are your sixth and seventh chakras. Pause, smile, and then exhale, sigh it all out. Just going deeper and deeper into this very peaceful, calm state of mind with every breath, sinking a little bit deeper. So there's nothing else to do, there's nowhere else to go, there's nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still, watch your breath. As you listen to these words, it's from lesson 331 of the Course in Miracles workbook. Just listen to the short commentary and allow these words just to sink in to a deeper part of your mind. So listen energetically rather than intellectually. It's not about trying to understand them intellectually. It means you're not trying to evaluate, compare, contrast, analyze, criticize, resist, or judge in any way. Just keep your mind nice and clear, calm, empty, open, but aware by focusing on your breath. And then you allow the words and the energy they carry, because words carry an energy frequency, just to sink into your mind, to a deeper part of your mind. subconscious, which is where they needed to undo the thought system of the ego, which we'll talk about just now. What is the ego? Is a preliminary section to this lesson. In fact, let's do that first. So it's the order that Jesus recommends doing it in. So what is the ego? Is the question, and let's hear what he has to say in response. I'm just listening in this very calm, clear, empty, open but aware state. There's nowhere to go, nothing else to do, just breathe, relax, absorb the frequency, the energy, where this is pointing to a deeper part of your mind as you listen to the words. So the ego is idolatry, sign of limited and separated self. Born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life in death. It is the will, quote, will, that sees the will of God, the will of infinite, eternal, loving presence called God, as enemy, and takes a form in which it is denied. The ego is the proof, quote, that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God or love alone is true. So just pause, reflect on that, watch your breath. The ego is doomed to suffer and to die, which is why we see so much suffering and death in this world, because it's the ego's miscreation. Keep watching your breath, staying nice and still, calm, empty, open but aware. So the ego is insane, says Jesus. This isn't the first time he says it. He says it many times in the course. The ego is insane. In fear, it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite. In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over God or love himself. And in its terrible autonomy, it sees, quote, the will of God, the will of love, has been destroyed. It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams, its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. Just pause, watch your breath. Stay very calm and present as you listen. It's very important that you stay detached as you listen to these kinds of descriptions of really what is, it's an awful thought system. It's a horror show. It's important we see it clearly, because until we see the ego, we cannot really make a choice to let it go. We think the ego is us. We have to see it with another part of our mind, which is the Holy Spirit, or the Son of God. So the Son of God, or the extension of love, is egoless. What can he know of madness and the death of God, the death of love itself? When he abides in him, when he abides in love, how can love not be there if you can experience it? What can he know of sorrow and of suffering when he lives in eternal joy? What can he know of fear and punishment, of sin and guilt, of hatred and attack, when all there is surrounding him is everlasting peace forever conflict-free and undisturbed, in deepest silence and tranquility. So get a sense of that, where this lesson is pointing. These words are pointing into this conflict-free, undisturbed silence and tranquility. The breath just take you there, watching the breath. You need do nothing, just be as you are. Watch the breath and be still. And you allow peace and tranquility to arise in your mind. And whenever you experience these, then you are beyond the ego. The ego knows nothing of peace and tranquility. It only knows of disturbance, conflict, war. So to know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, and the cost belief in it entails. In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense. The crucifixion of the Son of God, crucifixion of the extension of love itself, is offered daily at its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar, where its sickly followers prepare to die. So again, pause. This is one of these passages in the Course that lays it on thick. Jesus is trying to tell us, trying to wake us up, convince us that our faith in this delusion, this illusory reality, this mad identity, thinks that it's separate from love, is price for faith in it is immense. Price for faith in it is suffering and pain and death. Blood must flow before the altar, where its sickly followers prepare to die. We've seen a lot of sickness and death in the world. This year seems to become the dominant theme of this year with the COVID-19 pandemic. And we need to look beyond the appearances to the real source, the real cause of these beliefs, and get projected out as sickness and death. And there's one cause, only one, the ego. The thought system based on the opposite of truth, the opposite of love. Yet, says Jesus, will one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light, the altar to illusions to the shrine of life itself. And peace will be restored forever to the holy minds, which God created as his Son, which love created as its extension, is another way of saying that. His or its dwelling place, his joy, its love, completely his, completely one with him, completely one with this eternal, infinite, loving presence. So just pause briefly and try and feel that sinking into a deeper part of your mind, where forgiveness takes you to an experience of love, peace, joy, happiness. Smile as you just get a glimpse, a little taste of heaven right here and now, just the only time you can experience anything. So I'm going to move on to lesson 331. To prepare, take a nice deep breath in. Breathing into the lower stomach. Again, imagine you're not just breathing air in, but you're breathing light. It's beautiful golden or white light flowing into stomach, into your heart center. Put your hand over your heart if it slipped down. Draw the energy up the spine with the breath. Squeeze the sphincter muscle to pump it up. Feel this column of light flowing up. Back of the into crown of your head. Take another sip of air at the top. Pause. Smile. Yeah, and so there is no conflict. For my will is yours. Talking to your most innermost self, your higher self, God, love itself, source, creator. Doesn't matter what you call this, presence. It's another word for presence. Your will is the will of love, the will of this loving presence, in which there is no conflict. So say to yourself, say to this higher part of yourself, how foolish, Father, source, to believe your son, your extension, could cause himself to suffer. Could he make a plan for his damnation and be left without a certain way to his release? You love me, Father, my source, could never leave me desolate to die within a world of pain and cruelty. How could I possibly think that love has left itself? And so as you exhale, just dropping that idea. It's conceptual, it's intellectual, perhaps abstract part of your mind. Like, oh, what's the point? But this is where it all started in the mind. Before time was, we simply had an idea, a thought in our minds. We could be something other than love. We could leave love itself in our awareness and go off on a tangent, create an alternate reality to support our desire for individuality, specialness, uniqueness. And yet what we see is fearful. So there is no will except the will of love. Fear is a dream and has no will that can conflict with yours. Breathe in this peace, because peace is awakening. As you breathe in the essence of peace, beautiful, soft, warm, gentle, comforting, golden or white light, flowing into your energy centers, your stomach, your heart center, into your third eye, your crown, fusing every pore of your body, every cell and every muscle with its gentle healing light. Just feel it, infusing every cell, every muscle, every part of your mind with itself. It simply wants to extend. It's all encompassing. Extend into your awareness and beyond, to bless all the world. So as you exhale, just imagine extending that light outwards. Say fear is a dream and has no will that can conflict with yours. The will of love. Conflict is sleep and peace awakening. Death is illusion, life eternal truth. There is no opposition to your will. There is no conflict. For my will is yours. So just pause, breathing in again, watching the breath. Reminding yourself there is nothing else. If there's no other will, then no conflict is possible. You may think you see conflict and experience conflict in this world, but it's simply not true. And so forgiveness, this idea that we can let go of conflict, any negative thoughts and emotions which really come from a false idea about ourselves, a false will, if you were. Forgiveness shows us that God's will, or love's will, is one, and that we share it. So let us look upon the holy sites forgiveness shows today, that we may find the peace of God, peace of love itself. Amen. And with that invitation, prayer, just sink in to this peace and this stillness for a minute of silence. There's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, nothing else to think about for the next minute. Just breathe, relax, be still, and realize experientially that there is no conflict, because your will is the same as the will of love. That is the only will there is. And let that will infuse you, envelop you, comfort you. Just surrender yourself completely to it for the next minute of silence. And so just gently coming back into an awareness of your body and the breath. The count of 3, you can open your eyes. So 1, breathing in, notice the stomach rise, the chest rise. Air flows into the nostrils. Draw the energy up the spine to your heart center. Feel this really warm, tingling sensation flowing all the way up your spine into the crown of your head. Take another sip of air at the top. Pause, smile. And then exhale. Just sighing it all out, making a sighing sound in the back of your throat. The air flows out of your nostrils. Chest and your stomach suck back in. And then you come to rest at the bottom of the exhale. So when you pay attention to these gaps, little portals to eternity. And 2, just noticing the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. As you breathe in again, notice the energy rising up the spine, the chest and the stomach rising. Notice the subtle flow of air into your nostrils, and maybe there's a smell there. So notice the smell. Maybe there's a taste in your mouth. Notice that. Notice what you're hearing. Doing it all from a very still, calm place. There's no judgment. You're not naming anything, judging it, labeling it. Just allowing the sounds to arise in your awareness and then to subside. And the energy flows back down, front channel of your body, chest and the stomach, suck back in. So 3, just opening your eyes, looking around, and noticing whatever you happen to see around you. Just take a couple of seconds to rest your eyes on one thing, then move on to another, and another. Do that for maybe half a dozen things. Notice that your underlying state is the same. It doesn't matter what you're seeing. As long as you don't create a distinction in your mind, you don't name things, you don't judge them or label them, you don't interpret them, you don't create a story about them. And you'll notice that your underlying state is the same. There's this sameness towards which all these meditations and exercises are directed to help you start seeing the underlying true reality that is the same. It underlies all forms, all people, all circumstances, objects, things, events in this world. And that takes your mind back to oneness. Although you're still apparently living in the domain of perception, you can see it differently. And if you practice these exercises, you will start to see it differently. That's why we do spiritual practice, training your mind in this forgiving way of perceiving. No mental commentary, no judgment. And that is the quickest way to undo the ego. So if you're on the WhatsApp group, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for listening. I wish you a very peaceful and flowing evening ahead. Hope to connect with you tomorrow during one of the meditations at 12:30 UK time, 1:30 SA time, and again at 5 p.m. It's the earlier time slot. 5 p.m. UK, 6 p.m. SA time. Thanks for listening, and wish you a very peaceful and flowing evening ahead. And if you still out there on YouTube, and stay tuned, because we're going to have a little discussion session now. So just joining us if you'd like to. Let me just unmute everyone. Okay. So, shall we do a quick check-in? See what's going on. Anything arising in your world? Anything you want to discuss?
Nothing really. Just as I mentioned to you earlier, I've been feeling a bit grumpy, but I'm working on that. Yeah.
For no particular reason.
I don't think there's a reason. No, it's a whole lot of stuff just lurking around. Yeah.
So just kind of various issues, and it's really about focusing on the feeling, and then going, I can let that feeling go. Because in the end, that's all you can do. The circumstances, the events, whatever it is that seems to be triggering it, isn't the real cause. It's what the course is teaching us. So you can go to the heart of the grumpy feeling. The ego is a grump of note. It wants you to feel upset, unhappy, miserable. If you can really become aware, it's not always that easy to let go of, but if you can do that and say, okay, I'm aware, yes, there's a grumpy feeling. And then through some of these practices, like the breath breaks, the meditation, it's all designed to help you to just drop that feeling, drop the thoughts, drop the emotions. It's kind of an energy, isn't it? And it's got a sticky quality. It wants to kind of hang around in your mind and in your energy system. But if you keep going, like, okay, I'm going to let it go, and using the breath is very helpful, I think, because it actually physiologically starts to change your biochemistry if you use the breath. So you're just giving yourself a little bit of help. You start to change biochemistry, then that's another part of the ego's construct. Like one of its chief weapons is the body. Okay, so now all of the stuff's got entrenched in the body, and you've got all these chemicals floating around, stress hormones, and etc. And if you can start to release those and open the way for like positive chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, these happy, feel-good chemicals, then your body starts to support you in that. It's like, because the mind, but it all comes from the mind, so it's got to start with that awareness. But the breath is almost like an interface between the mind and the body. That's why it's so powerful. It can help you to just give you a bit of help. Because if you're trying to do it with your mind only, I'm not saying it's not possible, it is. But it's harder than if you go, okay, I'm actually willing to do a physical practice that can kind of connect me with my higher mind. And that's why breath work was so intrinsic to yoga and all these ancient teachings in India, because they figured out like this is really a key. This is a way into the mind. Start controlling the mind. If you can't even control your breath, what chance have you got in controlling this insane monkey mind that's all over the place? So it was like, okay, start getting that right first through this practice of yoga, and then build. So all these breath breaks and so on, I'm sending you. You practice them. And I know you do the meditations mostly twice a day, which is great. To them.
You froze.
And
Sorry, you froze there.
yeah.
Yeah, you froze.
Sorry,
Yeah,
no.
I forgot about the breath actually. I forgot that it changes the physiological side of things.
It does, yeah. It does.
Thank you, Jono.
Very definitely. Yeah, sure. No problem. You know, it's just a tool. It's not the end goal is you correct your mind and you know you're free and happy and peaceful all the time. But as we know, it's not that easy to do. And the ego is very cunning and tricky. So if you've got some tools in the toolbox to help you, and that's why I send the breath breaks. Like, okay, there it is. You know, if you get in a little ego grumpy attack, sit down and take 5 minutes and just like, okay, I can actually clear this or clear some of it. And if you keep doing it, the ego can't sustain if you're doing that kind of practice regularly. It's good, you know, you are going to start to feel better. And there's just a physiological aspect that's going on. You breathe nice, deep, slow breaths. You feel calmer. Your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. All those happy, feel-good chemicals start kicking in, and that then starts to change your state, as well as the mind training. You know, so I think the combination of breath work with the course's mind training is very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to discuss anything else? Or?
No, I'm all good. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Hazel, anything arising for you?
No, not really. I didn't sleep that deeply last night because the whole night I'm thinking I'm not going to have pain. And so I was saying to myself, you're going to stay on your back. And I was conscious of this all night. Mm-hmm. I never had any pain, but I am feeling very tired today.
Just couldn't sleep. Okay.
Yeah. Then I wasn't sleeping deeply because I was very conscious of saying, stay on your back.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do.
Well, I think sometimes, you know, if the ego is very sneaky. So if we start focusing on a condition like a physical condition, like back pain, for instance, in your case, the more you think about it, the more real it becomes. And so the ego is trying to tell you, well, I'll try and sort out this pain by giving you all kinds of strategies, remedies, whatever in this world. And the course calls that magic. But actually what you want to do is you want to actually go into a place where you're not even thinking about it. You're not thinking about the pain, you're not thinking about the body. You're just able to kind of let it go. So maybe you could try, like before going to bed, doing a meditation, just going into the light. So it's not really about asking for physical healing.
3 nights now I've been doing a meditation.
Well,
in bed. So I start off very well. But yeah.
Well, if you can try and stay, so even if you're like lying on your back and you can't sleep, just try and go into the light. Like just feel a sense of a light presence. You can visualize light coming in to your chakras, into, you know, it's just like we do in the meditations. You're breathing it in.
I did that.
And you actually, your mind.
Night before last, I was visualizing this white light coming into my system, like you do when you do your meditations in the morning, and also into my back, the lower part, but just white lights, you know.
Yeah, and just try and stay in that light. You know, if you can just give everything to the light, healing happens of itself. This is what the course is saying. You don't need to try and heal your body, because that's just the ego. Actually, the more you focus on the problem, the more the problem seems to be real, and the more in the ego's judgment, no, this is a real problem that actually is there, and it can't be resolved within the ego's thought system. So when you go to the light and you just go, okay, well, let me just feel that light and go into this place beyond the body, beyond time, beyond space, beyond the, you know, apparent physical condition. That's the best way of actually allowing the body to heal itself, because all kinds of mechanisms start to kick in. Your immune system, you know, it gets stimulated when you do spiritual practices.
Yeah.
The chemical, and we don't even really fully understand like how this stuff really works. There's been many miraculous healings recorded in history where medical science just goes, we don't know. I was watching a program a month ago or so on Lourdes, which is you know, it's a famous shrine in France.
Lourdes, yeah.
Yeah, where they go and they, you know, it's like holy water, and we were talking about the genuine miracles that have happened there. And to be a genuine miracle, like there's all these tests that they do. It only gets certified as a miracle if it passes all of these tests. And there's, I think, you know, 70 odd. And they describe one thing where a guy he came in and he had an X-ray, and he had no hip joint. His hip was like totally messed. There was really nothing there. And they you know, they still have the X-rays on file. That was before he got into this so-called holy water, and then instantly he got out and he was able to walk properly again. And he said, I feel fine, absolutely cured. And they did an X-ray afterwards, and his hip joint was restored. It was fine. The doctors were like, but how's that possible? That a hip can just regenerate instantaneously in a matter of you know, 5 minutes, because that's all it seemed to take. So you can't even begin to explain that. I mean, it's not possible by the laws of physics and time and space and the body and medicine, but there's something that transcends all of that. So if you can go into the light, then you just, you know, you're opening yourself up for a miraculous healing that you don't have to know how it happens, but you know, that's not your job. You just have to go into the light.
Thank you.
So I hope that helps. Try and, especially if you're staying awake, you know, you might as well use it as a meditation. So just I'm going into the light. I'm not letting my mind be drawn into the body and worrying about this back pain and the fact I'm not sleeping and I'm going to be tired tomorrow, etc. I'm just going to stay in that light, immerse myself in this light, and you know, even if you're not sleeping, if you do that for hours a night, that might just be the best healing practice you can do, because it's like meditation.
All right.
Thank you, John. Nice one, yeah.
Give it a try. Well, it's not really about physical healing. I think a lot of people try and use spiritual practices and teachings to, you know, they go, well, I want an outcome. I want my back pain to be gone, or I want my cancer healed, or whatever the issue is. But actually it's the healing of the mind, and the healing of the mind is detaching from the body and the physical and the material and all these laws of time and space, which sickness is a part of, and just I'm going into the light, and I'm not actually even concerned about you know, what's going on with my body. And then a healing may happen or it may not. So a guy by the name of Ramana Maharshi, who was an enlightened being, a master, lived in India in the sort of late 18th, last century, basically. So I think he died about 50 years ago or something. And he had cancer. He got cancer, which is like, well, how enlightened is that? But you know, the ego would go, well, how can an enlightened being get cancer? That's not very enlightened. But he really just wasn't bothered about it. It's like, oh. He was unaffected. He remained in a state of bliss, moksha as they call it, until the day his body died. And he just said to his followers, it's like, I'm not a body, so what are you sad about? He said, I'm not really going anywhere. You know, I'm still here. I'm just incorporeal. My mind is still your mind. So he wasn't bothered about it at all. In fact, he probably was like, okay, well, if this is how I lay the body aside, then that's fine, because the body is not going to last forever. So at some point, you know, we're all going to die physically. Some illness, something's going to kill us, even if it's just old age. But it doesn't matter, because it's not about the body. So you just start applying it now. You know, if you go into the light and go, it's not about the body, you might find your back pain gets miraculously healed. or maybe not. I don't
Never
know.
know.
There's
Yeah.
there's no fixed, like, okay, that's definitely going to happen if you do this, because that's not the point. The point is not to heal your back pain. The point is to heal your mind. And if you
Yeah.
do heal your mind, and maybe the back pain follows suit, maybe you still experience that physically, but it's not really bothering you. Your back pain is just it's not a factor. Okay, well,
Thank you.
it doesn't have to affect me.
Not a big area, but
It's mental. Sorry?
very deep. It's not a big area at all, but it's so deep, the pain. Oh, anyway.
Yeah, so I suspect there's a connection. There's always a connection into the mind. If you read Louise Hay, she talks about different areas of the body having correspondence to emotions, emotional problems. So maybe that's a support thing. Back, so spine is all about support, which leads us nicely into what I want to discuss actually, which is special relationships, special versus holy relationships, and what the difference is between them, and how you transmute them. How do you transform, what is a special relationship into a holy relationship? Because that's really the trick. If you can do that, then all of your relationships can really serve your awakening, rather than serving the ego and keeping you alone and feeling alone and separate and special. So, well, let me ask a question instead of just talking all the time. So what do you understand as being a special relationship? That's an open question to both of you.
Well, that would be like your husband or your wife or your lover or your child or your someone that you deem has to make you happy.
Yeah, that's partly correct, because there's always a relationship. So that person is more special to you than someone else because of that often biological relationship. So we're born into families, so we're born into special relationships. We have a special relationship from day one with our parents, and then with our siblings, and then we choose special relationships. So we choose to unite with a person, we get married, or not. Some people don't get married, but we have these so-called special relationships where we choose a partner, choose to spend more time with that person than anyone else. It's kind of how this world works. It's based on the idea that some special person can give you something more than someone else, and it's entrenched in our human experience, which is why it's quite hard to really see it, because it's like if you're born like a fish born into water, you're born into it. To start questioning it, you're questioning the very like fundamental nature of your reality, your apparent reality or existence here, which is why it pushes a lot of buttons. It's one of the biggest areas where the ego keeps us in prison. And of course, even says, the special relationship was formulated by the ego in response to the Holy Spirit. So the ego came along and said, oh, actually, you can be separate from God or love. The Holy Spirit said, no, that's a load of rubbish. Go back to God. Only love is true. And then the ego's counter to that was, oh, well, I'll give you special relationships, because that is its idea of love, right? So now you're going to love someone specially more than anyone else, which of course means by definition that separation is entrenched in that, isn't it? Because there's a separation underlying the specialness. All specialness implies that separation has happened. So it's kind of one of the ego's strongholds, if not the major stronghold. And our job, as the Course teaches us, is to transform our special relationships. So he's not saying, well, do away with them, because you're born into these relationships. You're going to have your family for the rest of your life. You might have chosen to live with someone, chosen a partner. It's not saying do away with that. He's saying transform it, see it differently. And that's the task. And then, so what do you understand, Hazel? What do you understand as a holy relationship?
Sure, that's a hard one. Quite sure how to answer that.
Okay, any ideas at all?
No, not really.
Okay, Debbie, any ideas?
I would think that it would be that you have a relation with someone that you don't, it's not exclusive. You love them as you love everybody else.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. It's unconditional. You haven't gone. It's not about meeting the ego's needs. So in most relationships, special relationships, it's like, I want this, I think I need this, and I think you're going to give it to me. And if you don't give it to me, then my expectations are violated, and I'm justified in getting upset. And we know how upset one can get in a special relationship because you're emotionally entangled with that person. And so they don't do something and you feel like that special love is now special hate. Can turn very, very quickly, can't it? Because it wasn't really love. That's what the Course is saying. You know, there's only really the love of God. And that is a love that doesn't see the specialness in the person, doesn't make them more special than anyone else. You're not requiring anything from the person. You don't need anything. You can just be as they are. You can go, okay, I'm as you are. We're the same. There's no real separation, and we can live pretty harmoniously together. You know, obviously, the theories, that sounds great. The practice of it in you know, our daily lives, if you're living with someone, we're dealing with apparent issues in the world. Money's a big one. Other people come into the equation. You have children. That's often a big factor. Differences of opinion as to, you know, what one should do, how you should live your life, and all these things can come in to sabotage that. You know, actually, no, you know, what you're now seeing is you're seeing the differences rather than the sameness. And you're seeing this person is agreeing with you, and then your ego comes in and feels threatened because, you know, remember the ego's idea is that if anyone threatens you, if anyone disagrees with you, they actually are threatening your whole identity because the ego's attached to its opinions. It thinks that its opinions are what it's made out of. And so it's very easy if you allow that to happen, to go into the mental domain of like, okay, we've got ideas, we disagree about practical issues, maybe we disagree about philosophical issues, about you know, how we think we should live our life, to then lose sight of the fact that actually you're still one with that person. It doesn't matter what disagreements you're having on the level of form of this world, you can still see beyond that. And that's really all forgiveness is. It's saying I'm willing to look beyond the surface level of the mind and all the mind-made ideas and dogma and judgments, and go beyond that to really see the, you know, I see you, namaste, in Sanskrit. It's like I see the essence of you, right? Beyond all of that stuff that obscures it. And if you can stay there, the more you can stay there, the more holy your relationship is. Because now you're seeing you're seeing oneness, you're seeing the sameness. You're seeing actually we have the same life essence, and none of this other stuff that the mind's made up really means anything. It can't really separate us from who we are, and it can't separate. It can't break our love. We can still find that holy love, that idea that, like, I don't love you. I mean, it's a problematic thing to say I love you, isn't it? Because if I love you, then it's an I and a subject loving some object, you. And this is the problem with language. You know, I love you implies special love most of the time. I think you can say I love you and maybe mean it in a different way, but it's more like I am you, like I see you. That's why the namaste thing, I think, was came into common usage in Sanskrit, because it's like I don't love you, but I honor you, right? So namaste, I see you, I honor and acknowledge the divine love in me, the peace, the joy, this essence in me, honors and acknowledges the divine in you, beyond the mind, beyond all these stories, beyond anything that apparently separates us in this world. I see you. And it's really going to that place, going to that presence. And if both of you can do it, then you must be having a holy relationship. Or at least in that moment, you have the Course would call a holy instant of connection, of like, actually, yeah, we just dropped all that stuff and we feel in that moment a genuine love, not the special love of, I need this from you, you haven't done this for me. That's an attachment. And there's a very big difference between attachment, which is based on special love, and holy love, which is an I see you as myself. I see the essence of you, this life essence, this loving presence that created us both. And I'm willing to see that and only that. I'm willing to overlook all the other stuff, the judgments, the mind-made stuff, the stories that interfere, get in the way, and just really create separation, because that's their only purpose. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Yeah. Hazel, any questions?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Because you're quite right. I'm thinking all the time about this son of mine. He and I had a very close relationship.
So often that kind of relationship, the ego sponsors very eagerly, because it's a special relationship. It's very close, and we're very like, you're a special mother, he's a special son, and you feel like really connected. But is it really genuine? Because it's very easy, as you've seen, what happens is then it turns. Someone then changes. So the ego loves this, because what it tries to do is get you sucked into these special relationships, get you really specially attached. And now it can use that relationship to really mess you around, to really start playing games with your mind.
Sure.
Now the person doesn't do what you think they should be doing, what you expect, and you feel wounded because there was this special love. And so now you feel like, they've hurt me because there was that special attachment. But if you only ever felt divine love, this like love of like, I see you, well, that's a different story, because okay, so they turn around and they start behaving badly on the level of form towards you. You were like, well, I was never really attached to you as a special person, as the body, really, because that's what the body, the ego looks at, the body, the personality, the psychological body of the personality. And they go, oh, that's my special son, or that's my special lover, or that's my special whatever in this world. And those relationships are always going to be problematic, because sooner or later, that person is not going to behave the way you think they should towards you.
Right.
Guaranteed. That's a guarantee, because the ego, it's a setup. It sets you up. It sucks you into that whole thing. And for a while, it might feel really nice. I mean, the classic thing is the romantic special love relationship. And everyone's, oh, that's so amazing. It's so wonderful. This is the love of my life. And that phase might last 3 months, 6 months maximum. It generally doesn't last much longer, because it's all the hormones going, the chemicals, and people feel amazing. But it's not going to be sustainable. If they start living with the person, then they start noticing all the things that are not quite so wonderful about the person. The habits that they don't like, and they might say things that they don't like, and they might not be this fantastic, perfect Mr. or Mrs. Right, which is an illusion. It just doesn't exist, because on this level, everyone has personalities, everyone has quirks, everyone has difficulties. There's no one who's perfect. So the only way you're gonna find a genuine love is if you look beyond that level. You can't look to that level to find authentic love, because it doesn't exist there, because it was never love in the first place. It was actually hatred in disguise, right? I think I especially love you, and I think that there's this attachment, but if you really look at it, actually what you wanted was for that person to meet your needs. You thought, okay, well, this person is going to meet my need for some kind of connection, some kind of intimacy, some kind of social stroking. They're going to big me up. They're going to make my ego feel better. And actually, when that need is not met, then I feel very upset, because the ego is very unstable. Its bubble can be pricked like that. So just bear in mind, like whenever you're dealing with your son, it's like, okay, this is not a special relationship. You take it to the holy level and say, I see you. Okay, even though he might not be behaving very nicely on the level of form, he still has an essence. He has a life essence. He's created by love, just like you are. And that's still there. He may not know it. He may not be aware of it, but you can be aware of it. And so the holy relationship connects you with your source, which is its purpose. It's not so much about getting the perfect relationship right on this level, but it's a learning vehicle. If you can really start seeing that in a person and going to that level and seeing, only the holiness in them, even if they're behaving badly, then you're doing the best you can. That doesn't mean it's all going to be fixed automatically on the level of form. I'm not saying that, but you're much more likely to be able to resolve things with that person. If you say, look, I see you. In the case of your son, maybe he's not ready for that, but it doesn't matter because you're not actually living with him. So you just go, I see you. And that's okay. I see you. Like, even though you might have sent me an email that pushed my buttons, or like, I see you. But I still see beyond all this that actually he's just a bit confused. He doesn't know the difference between special and holy love. And he's playing a game in his own mind. The ego is playing him. But underneath all of this, there's actually the desire to cry for love. He actually wants divine love. We all do. And so, the Course says that everything's either a love or a call for love. If it's a call for love, then just see it as like, actually what he really wants is this deeper connection with you. But he just doesn't, he's too blocked. He's too stuck in the ego and that special way of looking at things to know that. But you can see it. And that's the power we all have. You can see it for yourself. You can enter into that holy relationship, even if he doesn't. And that may just transform it. Because if you've changed and it's a relationship, it means you're connected to him on a higher level, on a mental, emotional level, then he can't help but be influenced by that, because minds are joined, as the Course teaches us. So that's the best way of trying to heal the relationship, is go to the holiness yourself. And I'm not saying it's easy, because someone pushes your buttons, it's like that all arises and the ego, does its thing. But in a way, that's perfect, because now it's the perfect trigger for you to see your ego, isn't it? To see what it is, what it does, and you can see it so clearly in a special relationship, and then you can forgive it, you can let it go, and find the holiness beyond it through forgiveness. So it's a really great learning vehicle. If you can master relationships and you can really find this holiness in all of your special relationships, you're enlightened. You got it. So I think it's the hardest. There's a few hard areas in this world. Relationships, I think, are the hardest. Money is another one. How you deal with time is another one. How you deal with the physical body is another one. These are the domains where the ego has a stronghold, and you need to really look at them and address them. And the relationship is possibly the most difficult one, arguably. Which brings us to our lesson for today. So I thought maybe we could just read the preliminary section on what is the ego, seeing as we're talking about the ego, and also the lesson if we have time. So I'm just going to share my screen. Any questions or comments about that? Okay, so can you both see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. That's down the bottom there. Okay, so this is a new section. We haven't read it yet. Well, I read it as part of the meditation, but there's some really good stuff in here about what the ego is, what it does. So shall we just take turns reading it? Debbie, do you want to start?
What is the ego? The ego is idolatry, the sign of limited and separated self. Born in a body, doomed to suffer and to let me just move the picture. Doomed to suffer and to end its life in death. It is the will that sees the will of God as enemy and takes a form in which it is denied. The ego is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true.
So he's kind of laying it on quite thick, isn't he? This is one of those passages where it's like he's really getting you to look at the ego. Was there anything there that stood out for you?
I think just the whole thing. The ego is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true.
Yeah. Yeah, really well said. He's saying it's proof, quote. So we see the proof in the external world and we go, oh, well, there we go. Actually, weakness is true. Fear is the reality. Life is really death. What opposes divine love alone is true. And so you've got to keep remembering the ego has created the world to support its belief system, which is why we have to let go of our belief in the world as reality. Because otherwise, if you believe it's reality, then the thought system that created it must also be reality. That's how it works. Okay. Any questions on that first paragraph? No? Okay. Hazel, do you want to read paragraph 2?
I can't because the pictures are hiding half of it. And 3.
Okay,
unless you go down.
You've got your course book. You can read out of your course book.
Okay, I'll go and get it.
Okay. I'll read the second one in the meantime. So the ego is insane. I might actually just, what I can do? I can show the small active speaker video. That's what I can do.
Okay.
That might have been put Hazel.
Pardon?
Just look at the screen. Is it better? I've just minimized it.
No, it's still covering 2 and 3. I've got the book. The ego is insane. In fear, it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite. In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over God himself. And in its terrible autonomy, it sees the will of God has been destroyed. It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams, its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them.
Okay. Anything there that particularly struck you, or anything you didn't understand?
It's talking about its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them.
So the thing with a special love relationship is actually we see that person deep down as our enemy. We don't actually love them, we hate them. Special love is just a cover for the hatred that lies beyond it. And so that special relationship is just confirming the ego's whole thought system. The idea of punishment, so this person can now punish you, they can hurt you. We tremble at the figures in our dreams. So if a special relationship isn't meeting our needs, we feel fearful, we feel upset. And we feel like this person then becomes our enemy. The person who was the special love now becomes the special hate. Who seek to murder it because you feel like you're attacked. Really, like it, although it might not play out physically. If someone's attacking you psychologically, that's the idea of murder, isn't it? It's the idea that you can be destroyed, which is the ego's idea. You seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. So this is why special relationships are characterized by defense and attack. You feel like you're under attack, and then you attack before to ensure your safety as a kind of mechanism of self-defense to try and protect yourself. But actually what you're protecting is the false self. It's not who you really are. And that's not to say on the level of form that you should, allow someone, let's say in many relationships, there can be abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, that you should just, allow that to happen. But it's the psychology that goes with it. That's the problem. I once spoke to a woman, and she'd been in an physically abusive relationship for 19 years. And she said she had to go within herself and she had to really look and say, okay, I'm done with this. I'm not going to play the game anymore. Because she said they were both playing a game. It was the victim and the victimizer, and she played the game for 19 years until she said, I'm not playing the game anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And then she left, but she had to do it in her mind first before the physical leaving could actually happen.
I can't see how you can actually think of your own son as hating him in the first place. Okay, an outsider that you've married, but your own kiss and kin, your own son. I don't know.
Because, okay, so think about it. When he does something you don't like, sends you an email that's not great, what reaction do you feel? Do you feel loving, or do you feel quite angry?
Yeah, but at the time when we had when we were really, really close, there's no ways I would have considered that.
No, but look at what's happened subsequently. So what the Course is saying is that special love, that really close, like specialness, is actually just a cover. If you dig deeper, you will see that underneath that is separation. And the idea of separation is the idea of murder and attack. Because now there's someone or something separate from you that can hurt you and attack you. And you can attack it in return, and you can defend and attack. And so it's a cover, it's a smokescreen. The ego never wants you to look at this and never wants you to see beyond it, because it's as the Course says, it's its replacement, or it's counter to the Holy Spirit, saying, okay, I'll give you special love then. And you'll keep coming back into this world, seeking these special love relationships, seeking to try and get something from him, and not ever really being fulfilled by them, because they can't really fulfill you, because they're not true. They're based on a lie. They're based on the idea of separation. And they're actually based on separation is murder and attack. And that's really all Jesus is trying to say to us. He's saying, look, really look at this. You'll see that what I'm saying is true. That any specialness, the idea of specialness, is the idea of separation. And separation implies death, attack, murder, guilt, fear. The whole thing happens. The whole disaster that is the ego's thought system happens the moment we want to be special, right? That was the first split in the mind. We decided we kind of liked the idea of having our own identity, that having a special self rather than the one self that God created was a better idea.
The first time I saw this in action was when I had to go to court to get money out of my ex-husband, but there's nothing to do with that. I had to wait for a court appearance of a young man who was manacled, and his mother was in court. And he had tried to, he had attacked her, but he's on drugs. And I felt the most terrible pain for that woman, the mother, watching the son. I can't remember exactly what the court case was about. Perhaps it was that he had attacked her. And I found this so hard to believe. Then I actually blamed it on the drugs, not the person himself, But
well, it's the ego, and so if you take drugs, then the ego is in charge by definition, because you're needing some kind of external substance to just make you feel decent, and so you're attached to something external, and then you think that you need that, and obviously they get so addicted that they'll do anything. They'll steal, they'll kill, the ego has totally got them in the fear desire mode. Desire, total attachment, total desire is addiction. Like they're addicted to this. They think they need it, and then of course it doesn't satisfy for long. Then the fix is over, the high is over. Now they need it again. And so there's an example of the love relationship just turned to special hate very, very quickly,
Yeah.
with the aid of drugs, but actually it was just the ego at work. Because the ego, what you got to realize, the ego is behind all of this. Like anything negative that we see in the world, drugs, crime, special relationships, abusive relationships, on a macro level, war, unemployment. It's all the ego. It's sponsoring all of this because it wants people to suffer. It wants pain, suffering, death, destruction, murder, because that justifies its thought system. That justifies its identity, which explains why the world is the way it is, doesn't it? And it explains why it doesn't matter what we do on the level of form. The world is still, by and large, the same as it was 1,000 years ago. We still have all these issues, still have sickness and fear and suffering, and people still attack each other and are nasty to each other. We still have wars because the ego can't do without these things. They're the manifestation or the projection, the outward projection of the inner condition. But Jesus doesn't leave us here. So I'll read paragraph 3. It says, the Son of God is egoless. What can he know of madness and the death of God when he abides in him? What can he know of sorrow and of suffering when he lives in eternal joy? What can he know of fear and punishment, of sin and guilt, of hatred and attack, when all there is surrounding him is everlasting peace, forever conflict-free and undisturbed, in deepest silence and tranquility? So he never leaves us, and just goes, well, there's the ego. He's always giving us the alternative and saying, well, actually, the truth is you're egoless. Really, this is just madness. The death of God or love is ridiculous. And sorrow, suffering, pain, all the stuff we've invented, fear, punishment, sin, guilt, hatred, attack. He lists all of these. These are all cornerstones of the ego's belief system. Are simply not real. They're not there. In the light, there's only peace. There's only this state of peace as you conflict-free, you're undisturbed, in deepest silence and tranquility. This is the state of heaven. And our job is to access that now and experience that now, even while we're apparently dealing with these false ideas, all these projections. And that's the whole game. Is to correct our mind as these things show up, triggered by apparently external things, a primary one, which can be special relationships. But if you see it as what it is, the special relationship is there as a learning device to help you to let go of your own ego, and in the process transform it into a holy relationship. That's the outcome that of the miracle. But the real purpose is to let go of the ego. And it's just a great way of doing it, because there's nothing that can quite push your buttons like a special relationship, in my experience. Is there?
You're right.
Oh, so then it's a great trigger, and then it's like, okay, do you have the awareness to look at it and be aware of those feelings of upset and drama and maybe attack thoughts and really the sin and the guilt that underlies it? Just be aware of it and be willing to look at it really honestly and say, okay, yeah, I see what this is. I see what this is made out of. And I'm willing to let this go, because this is not love at all. It's just hatred in disguise. And the disguise, the veneer, is very thin. It can be with one word, one sentence, someone can prick that whole bubble, can't they? That's all it takes. A few words and poof, and then suddenly, that special love turns to special hate, and you've got all these, negative emotions to deal with. And if you really see it like this, and you let go, and you do the proper forgiveness, is the way the Course teaches it, then that must transform into a holy relationship in your mind. There's nowhere else it can go, because it's either special or holy. Those are the two alternatives. Okay, Debbie, you want to read number 4? Any questions about paragraph 3?
She's muted.
I'll ask her to unmute.
Thank you. I couldn't unmute.
Okay.
To know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, and the cost belief in it entails, and the cost belief in it entails. In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the Son of God is offered at its darkest, as its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar, where its sickly flowers prepare to die.
Followers.
Follow.
Yeah.
Prepare to die. I thought
And
flowers.
he said, the crucifixion of the Son of God is offered daily. So he's saying, look at the world, because daily people die, don't they?
Yeah.
It's a normal part of so-called life here. You know, there's hundreds of thousands, maybe millions dying every day. And that's what he's saying. It's offered daily at its darkened shrine. Blood must flow. Right? There must be, sickness and suffering and death and violence before the altar where its sickly followers prepare to die. So again, he's laying it on thick. It's like, okay, look at this. The price for faith in the special self that you've created is so immense that it's just suffering and it's crucifixion, it's death, it's murder, it's attack, because he has to get us to see just how awful it is in order to let it go and say, okay, no, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm willing to let go of the entire delusion and just believe in the Holy Spirit, have one voice that guides me through my life. So did anything stand out there for you?
Yeah, the first sentence. To know
Okay,
reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, etc. Yeah.
which is a great reminder, right? So when you think you see these things, its works, its acts, its laws, its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, it's the whole world that we've constructed out of the ego. All the laws, all the beliefs, the works it does, the acts it does, is just to overlook them. To go, this is illusion. This is not true. It's not real. So don't see it. You will start by seeing it to start with, but if you can really overlook it, you go, you know what, this stuff really, it's not important. It's not worthy of my belief. I'm going to overlook it as much as I possibly can. Sometimes you have to deal with practical concerns, but by and large, you can actually you can overlook a lot of these things. So, okay, I'm just not putting my focus there because you're seeing a dark picture, aren't you? You see through a darkened glass, and it's all pretty awful if you just see from the ego's perspective. Okay, Hazel, you want to read the last paragraph?
Yet will one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light, the altar to illusions, to the shrine of life itself. And peace will be restored forever to the holy minds which God created as his Son, his dwelling place, his joy, his love, completely his, completely one with him.
Did anything there stand out for you? Any sentence?
What does it mean by only one lily of forgiveness?
Well, so he uses that metaphorically. A lily is obviously it's a flower, and he uses that, poetically, just to indicate that it's one thought of forgiveness. So if you just are willing to go, okay, actually, I can see this differently. I can change my mind about this. I can let go of the fear, the attack thoughts, the whatever the negativity is. You change the darkness into light just by that thought. You're going, okay, there's another way of looking at this. I can see this differently.
Okay.
So it's just metaphoric or poetic language. But it's the idea that it's a thought. That's all forgiveness is. It's a thought. Okay, I don't have to see the dark picture the ego's painting. I can see it differently. and I can choose to let go of the negative thoughts and emotions that I'm feeling. That's the lily of forgiveness. When you go, yeah, I can choose to do this. I can do this. You may not let it all go straight away, but the lily is just the willingness to say, yeah, okay, I'm willing to do this.
Okay.
I'm willing to correct my perception and let it go. And then, forgiveness restores peace. Okay, well, if none of this is real, none of this can really deny your peace and your joy and your love. And you go back to God in your mind. You won again with this idea of total love. That's what forgiveness restores you to, irrespective of what's happening on the level of form. Because that's false by definition. It's not true. And this is the practice. It's not easy to do always, but the principle remains true no matter what the situation is, no matter what situation is, what negativity you're facing, what you're dealing with. You can always do this. You can always forgive. You can always choose to let go. Right. So the dogs are barking. Shall we close it here? It's just after 9, so
Thank you.
I don't want to keep you up too late. So just do a minute's little closing prayer. So just close your eyes, connect with your breath. Just breathing in, breathing out. Just noticing the stomach rise, the stomach fall. And just breathe in a nice deep breath of gratitude for this time we spent together. Gratitude for the technology that enables this. So we can be hundreds of miles apart and yet we can connect and we can share on a mind level. So give thanks for that sharing, for what you learned today, for the insights the Holy Spirit revealed, for the feeling hopefully of greater love and peace and joy that you're connected to. And just know that you're on the right path. Holy Spirit's guiding you by helping you to do these kinds of practices. These discussions, the meditations, it's all part of a carefully designed curriculum which you're following. You're on your path back to God, and nothing can stop that. Any obstacles, any difficulties you experience on the way are simply part of the learning. They're part of the journey. So smile, give thanks for that. Feel the love and the gratitude in your heart. Extend it to everyone here in this little circle we created tonight. There's only 3 of us. Extend it to the other members of the community who are not with us. And to everyone in your life, friends, family, acquaintances, and then to the entire world, every human being, every living creature. Just feel like you're connected to them in this love and this gratitude. Because that's all it takes, just a thought. You think it and you're there. You're in the divine mind of oneness. So once again, give thanks for this presence that's guiding you. Feel the love and the gratitude and anchor that state in. Set the intention to stay there for the rest of the evening and on into your week ahead. So it is said, so it is done. And gently open your eyes. Continue on with your evening and your week. So thank you. I enjoyed that session. I hope you did too. And hopefully see you tomorrow. We've got a meditation at 1:30 SA time. That's 12:30 UK time for those out there on YouTube. And 5 p.m. UK, 6 p.m. SA time. 6 p.m. tomorrow in the Zoom room. So hopefully see you then.
Thank you, Jono. Thanks, Hazel.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Well.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.